The fatty whale meat, one bite fills the mouth with rich sustenance. The thick layer of blubber is full of fat. It's a rare, century-old energy feast. The starving polar bear devours it frantically. This is an excellent energy source in the icy land. After eating and drinking enough, the polar bear will stay in the snow den for 6 months. Without eating anything, relying on stored fat to survive the winter. But an unexpected birth pushes the mother polar bear into a precarious situation. A male polar bear, full of wounds. Dying, no one needs to pity him. For he is the one who caused this entire tragedy. Just now, he brutally blocked a female polar bear passing by, under threat and intimidation. Finally forced mating with the female polar bear, right at the critical mating moment. Another male polar bear is in heat, also wants to get involved. A bloody battle immediately erupted. During this time, the male polar bear must fight relentlessly for love until the female polar bear is confirmed pregnant. But that brief encounter didn't last long. Male polar bears live a polygamous life. Simply put, they are betrayers. He has no responsibility to raise his offspring. The burden of childbirth alone. After pregnancy, the fertilized egg won't implant immediately, but will float in the warm uterus, lasting for 6 to 8 months. To ensure a safe wintering environment, the female polar bear digs a den on a slope. To avoid fierce snowstorms, if the snow layer isn't 3 meters thick, just digging a shelter is enough. Week-long blizzards will bury everything. After the September sun sets, the 6-month-long night officially begins. Harsh blizzards strike fiercely. Temperatures drop sharply, the lowest even reaching -70 degrees. But the polar bear sleeps soundly in its warm den. As the body enters hibernation, the fertilized egg also begins to implant. Polar bears don't actually hibernate completely, even before the harsh cold. They still endure thanks to their thick layer of fat. About 60 days after nesting, it will be time to give birth. The female polar bear, on average, gives birth to 2 cubs. Triplets are extremely rare. Newborn polar bear cubs weigh only about 1 kilogram. The mother's birth canal is larger than the cub's size, so the birthing process is almost painless. Although born in a harsh environment, but in the warm den, they are like in a furnace. The temperature in the mother's embrace, even reaching over 20 degrees Celsius. Nevertheless, 1 cub unfortunately passed away. Even so, the mother polar bear resolutely stayed to protect it until the den began to smell of decay. After licking the body to confirm death, the mother was forced to leave it behind. The surviving polar bear cub lives entirely on mother's milk. The mother polar bear converts stored fat into energy-rich milk to feed her cub. This conversion process causes the mother to lose nearly 1 kilogram of fat daily and lasts for 3 to 4 months. with the mother polar bear unable to eat or drink. This is the harshest period. 3 months passed, even though spring had arrived. Temperatures remained around -40 degrees. The family of 3 in the warm den, enjoying a reunion moment. But as a mother, she couldn't indulge in peace. 3 months of continuous nursing caused the mother's weight to drop by a third. Now she desperately needs food. A week passed. The blizzard finally stopped. The starving mother polar bear emerged from the den. After 6 months, not a drop of water, not a bite of food. If this continues, she will starve to death. Leaving the warm den, the 2 small polar bear cubs couldn't adapt to the outside temperature. But to survive, they had to stick close to their mother. They had to walk over 200 kilometers to Hudson Bay to hunt. On the migration route, the starving mother polar bear constantly had to stop to nurse her cubs. Energy-rich milk helps the polar bear cubs maintain their body temperature. Just as they were moving, they suddenly spotted an Arctic fox digging in the snow. On the migration route, the starving mother polar bear constantly had to stop to nurse her cubs. The mother polar bear, of course, wouldn't miss this rare opportunity. The 2 polar bear cubs also tasted fresh meat for the first time. Although it couldn't compare to a seal feast, it provided a little energy. As the whole family was enjoying a happy moment. Looking for a mate. Even his own offspring are considered rivals. For the polar bear cub, this is a deadly threat. The mother understands how dangerous a male polar bear in heat is. She quickly rushed to let her cubs climb the slope. Just to mate, he can even follow the mother for weeks. At such a close distance. For the polar bear cub, this is a deadly threat. The mother understands to buy more time for her cubs. But this action was seen as an invitation by the male polar bear. The mother polar bear immediately rushed down the slope, trying to attract the male polar bear's attention. The mother's strange behavior made the 2 polar bear cubs feel abandoned. The starving mother polar bear cannot confront the male polar bear. She could only pretend to comply. This provocative move almost left the male polar bear with no strength to resist. Once the act is overdone, the male polar bear will show unusual interest. But the mother polar bear, who is nursing, will not accept any courtship signals. If they cannot escape the male polar bear's harassment, the two polar bear cubs will starve and freeze to death, just as the mother polar bear was in a stalemate. Another male polar bear unexpectedly appeared, breaking the deadlock. The first male polar bear has extremely strong possessiveness. A fierce battle immediately erupted. The mother polar bear had to seize every second. The whole family had to leave before the fight ended, quickly escaping. But on the steep slope, the polar bear cubs found it very difficult to move. Just one slip would immediately attract the male polar bear's attention. Helplessly, the polar bear cub could only climb onto its mother's back. This way, the two cubs escaped danger. Finally, the rival was driven away. Although he won the right to mate, but his prize had already escaped. Unwilling to give up, the polar bear will follow the female polar bear's scent to pursue her. Adult polar bears can travel up to 80 kilometers a day, but newborn cubs cannot travel long distances. Every now and then, they have to stop and rest. The mother polar bear is helpless. She can only sit down and shelter her cubs. But the male polar bear is pursuing them from behind, not giving them much time to rest. After a short rest, they are forced to continue moving. The mother polar bear is exhausted from long hours of nursing. Her body is worn out. But for her cubs, she still grits her teeth and endures. As they approached the edge of Hudson Bay, seal tracks appeared on the ice. At this time, ringed seals are also in their nursing period.
Dan waar they're nursing, e passing ay side to tavipo.
When the mother seal hunts underwater, the seal pup, unable to swim, can only wait on the ice. This sparks hope for the starving mother polar bear.
The poor little ones,
who had never even seen what a polar bear looks like, showed no fear as the bear approached. But underwater, the mother seal had spotted the dark shadow on the ice. As soon as the polar bear charged, the mother seal immediately surfaced at the breathing hole to warn. But the seal pup still didn't seem to understand what danger was. The mother seal surfaced again, letting out a strong warning. At the last second, as the polar bear charged, the seal pup dove headfirst into the water. The fatty blubber slipped away, making the family of three's situation even more difficult. But the seal had to surface every 10 minutes to breathe. The starving mother polar bear had to stand motionless in the cold wind, waiting, sometimes for 7 or 8 hours. The polar bear cub stood beside her, imitating its mother's posture. Clearly, they still haven't learned how to hunt seals. Sometimes for 7 or 8 hours. The polar bear cub stood beside her, imitating its mother's posture. To escape. The mother polar bear could only lead her cubs up the mountain slope. The male polar bear is twice as heavy as the female. Moving on the soft, snowy slope is extremely difficult. While the family of 3 could use their physical advantage, they temporarily escaped danger. But the slippery slope had no grip, and every step the polar bear cub took was extremely difficult. The male polar bear had discovered the cub's tracks. Their appearance immediately triggered the male polar bear's hunting instinct. The mother polar bear walked ahead, clearing a path for her cubs, creating a safe escape route. Fortunately, in that life or death moment, the polar bear cub climbed onto its mother's back. The male polar bear, blinded by desire, still wouldn't give up. The mother polar bear kicked up the snow above to counterattack. Losing balance, the male polar bear slid down. The mother polar bear was desperate at his foolishness. As a husband, he had no responsibility for his family and children. As a male, he was also a failure. The ancients said that coercion never yields results. Perhaps he should look at himself. Escaping the threat from the male polar bear, they finally reached the hunting ground. The starving mother polar bear now needed urgent food. When the seal goes hunting, to prevent the cub from being killed, they will hide the seal cub under the ice.